Let's go, people, let's go! It's Prognosis negative time!
This is Eric. This is Sean.
And this is Caleb.
And welcome back to Prognosis Negative, the podcast title that almost makes zero sense. It is going to be episode number 44, and something most of us, certainly I did not expect to come up, because it's a movie I'd literally never heard of in my life and never knew anything about and never knew existed. But today we present to you The World, the Flesh, and the Devil.
This is New York, as no man has ever seen it. Empty, deserted, its teeming millions gone. This is the setting for the most unusual picture ever filmed.
I know you're there! You're staring at me! Move!
The most daring idea ever attempted in motion picture entertainment. The last three people alone in the world. What are the emotions of this girl, facing a future that no woman before her has ever known? What of the men, torn by basic human emotions, as they stand on the brink of the unknown? Here is a film that crashes through time and the future. It may stun you and shock you, but above all, it will grip your imagination as no film has ever done.
Do you want to kiss me? Make love to me? Then go ahead. Kiss me, make love.
Sarah.
Oh, now. Oh, now it feels. Make me forget everything.
We have only one problem. There are two of us and one of her. What are we going to do about it?
Why don't you toss a coin?
The sweetest wine in the world is the fruit on the vine.
And the thief and her lover and the cook.
And the cobbler.
Okay. As this is a film I'd never heard of, my obvious first question is going to be to Caleb, who suggested this movie. Caleb, how did this even come about, and how did you first become aware of this movie?
This is a recent watch for me. I saw this around, maybe it was March or February. I think on my TCM recording, I think it says it was recorded in February. And yeah, I just, this popped up in TCM. Every week I go through whatever's going to play over the week and record whatever sounds interesting. And the title alone for this, I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. I'll check out whatever it is. And so I liked it so much, I added to my big list of movies I like but don't hear talked about much. Very generic title for that list, or vague title.
Yeah, I was like, well, what is this? What are you talking about there, Eric? Because he invited me to, I kind of invited myself onto this podcast. I'm like, I watched maybe a trailer for it. Like, yep, I'd watch this. This looks interesting. Although the title sounds like the name of a giallo film. Yeah, I'm going to recreate some conversations me and Sean had over the course of several weeks. Hey, Sean, want to do a podcast about American Graffiti with us? You never asked me about American Graffiti. Hey, Sean, you want to do a podcast about THX? Yeah, no, I don't really have the time. And then I go, and I'm about to ask, and he's already going to say, no, I'm busy. And I go, The World, the Flesh, and the Devil. And he's like, hold on a second. Hold on, let me look at this up. Yeah, you know what? If Caleb's fine with it, yeah. And I'm just like, okay. I know where Sean's interests lie. And actually, for me, definitely the title is eye-catching.
But
Yeah.
when Caleb sent me the title and I saw it, I kind of assumed or thought it was going to be like from your list of like sexploitation films, because that's how it came off to me.
Let's not mention that list.
Like the monster of Camp. I can't remember it. Camp Sunshine.
Yeah, that's it.
The monster of Camp Sunshine. Sorry, it was a nudie film that Eric sent me. It just fucking shows up in the mail, and I have to be like, I didn't order this. I don't know what this is.
He calls it a nudie film, but it's an artistic sexploitation film.
It's a nudie film.
No, hold on.
It's
a blue movie.
And spoiler, like it starts off being like, and it's from like 60s black and white, but it starts off feeling like classic Friday the 13th. It feels a little bit like Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the first 2 acts.
Oh my God.
But then the final act, spoiler.
You did not say that. I can't believe he said that.
Spoiler, the final act.
The doors. Good day, sir.
Is sort of a riff on
said good day.
The base assault scenes from Doctor Strangelove.
No, it's based on somebody wanted to see some boobs. That's what it's based on. There's like a full 10-minute scene of this man and 2 women who are nudists, and it shows them setting up their camp. You know what, Caleb? You really want to talk about the world, the flesh, and the devil.
Let's keep talking about the nudists.
We should talk about that.
Get some details there.
No, it's not a nudie film, please, sir.
I don't think that's an approved.
It was made so some guy can beat off to his 8mm projection while his wife's at her canasta club.
Again, I don't think nudie film is an approved cinema designation. It's basically a sexploitation film.
But I do want to point out because we've done a couple of these ones from this list so far, but I did take this one from the lower tier of my list because. Yeah, those are the ones that I like quite a bit, but have certain flaws that I can't quite call them a great movie. So I figured I put up that caveat right from the start for this one.
That's crazy to me that you already have this list, which is fine, but then the list is then subdivided into tiers.
Yes, into tiers. Yeah,
that's completely nuts.
The list is life.
Yeah. By the way, the one right above this is Sky Captain: The World of Tomorrow. So.
Oh wow!
There you go.
Oh, cool.
Maybe that shows.
Also, yeah. Another movie I've never seen, but I don't know why this matters. Are there like 2 tiers, 3 tiers on this list?
Just 2 tiers.
Okay.
I had never heard of this movie either, and as we already know. But what's weird is as I'm watching it, I'm getting flashbacks, like I've seen it before. But I have seen the remake that they made of. Oh no, excuse me. There is a remake from 1985 called The Quiet Earth. And I read about that. It was in the book 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die.
Wait, remake?
But oddly, this one is not.
Or I think it's inspired by, I don't know if it's...
Yeah.
It looked...
The Quiet Earth, I would definitely give a recommend, by the way. Really cool movie.
Is it? Would you call it a remake of this? It's about 3 people who are the only ones left on Earth, right?
Yep. But I would just think that they both fall under that trope of kind of the last man on Earth.
Okay.
I wouldn't necessarily call it, remake. Although I guess now that I think about it, it does deal with its own kind of racial dynamics. I think it was New Zealand or...
Yeah, I believe it's New Zealand. And it's interesting because you said The Last Man on Earth, which I think was the working title for this movie.
Yeah, and for a movie that I really enjoy with Vincent Price, Weird Little Italian, based on the Richard Matheson book I Am Legend, that and Omega Man. And I was definitely thinking of I Am Legend watching this. You can feel some definite tendrils seeping over to that. And that's just a trope that I enjoy. I seek out movies like this.
That's interesting. I got to mention this. A nuclear Holocaust movie, this is not.
No.
If it were, like, it would be, because the idea that they can emerge from underground after, 10 days or 5 days? No, that's not. And also, why are all the buildings intact and there are no bodies? And I know why there's no bodies, because it was 1959 and they didn't want, and they didn't have the budget to blow up New York. So, but it's cool. I get it. That's fine.
I also agree it's curious, the no bodies thing, but I believe they use some word judo to explain why there isn't crazy damage or anything like that, because it wasn't an atomic attack in the traditional bomb sense. It was an unnamed country releasing like a radioactive isotope into the air that gets around everywhere like dust, except they didn't plan for it to go worldwide. And that's what basically killed everyone. And then they say whatever the chemical compound was, it had like a half-life of 5 or 10 days.
Oh, okay.
Which is why it became safe for people to emerge, or, after the fact.
This also reminded me of a Twilight Zone episode. I think it was the very first Twilight Zone episode. Don't ask me who the hell's in it, but it's like this, where everybody disappears and it's just one man and one woman left.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
I think it may have been called Two. And I think it might be Charles Bronson or Chuck Norris. I don't remember.
It's Bronson. I got to watch it.
Caleb likes a little Bronson in his coffee.
I love it.
Bronson is the one that's already gone. He died young. Yeah.
He's the hot one.
Season 3, episode 1 from 1961. And yes, Charles Bronson.
Oh, season 3. Who is it?
Charles Bronson.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay. Who's the lady?
That I don't know yet.
Okay,
definitely got to add that to my list. Me and Isaac just coincidentally just recorded an episode for the Twilight Zone. We did that for our Christmas special, the Night of the Meek.
Oh.
Yeah, he pulled that out. A really cool episode.
She's a cutie in this, Elizabeth Montgomery.
Oh, wow. Really? Oh, it's her?
Oh my gosh, it's Tabitha. Oh, crazy.
Tabitha.
Yeah, it's Elizabeth Montgomery, right?
Bewitched.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she's a cute brunette in this.
She is very cute. She's. I mean, I never wanted to fuck her or anything, but.
Okay, let's.
Okay, all right. No, seriously. My big list of '60s actresses, and we'll just do a quick rundown with Sean.
Yeah, but let's maybe jump into some initial thoughts here. Maybe starting with you, Eric. You not really know what you're coming in for. How did this deliver as you were going through the picture?
Mostly fine. And to echo some things that were already said, certainly some of the very first feelings I got in the opening scene were, it definitely felt like if there was like a 90-minute classic Twilight Zone television movie. Very much felt like that. Because of the first scene taking place underground in a like a underground mine location, and because of the production values, they're not what you would call A-list. They're kind of getting to the B-list type of film production values for some of the studio sets. It really gave me a classic Doctor Who feel. Specifically, I was just thinking about the Silurians episode in particular. I just very much, and that's probably not the best example I could pull from classic Doctor Who, but it's just the first one that jumped in my head. So yeah. And also I realized, I've always been aware of the name and the face and the actor Harry Belafonte. And at first when I was watching this earlier today, I thought, you know what? I think this is the first time I've ever seen him in a film, which is not true, but I thought it was. But it turns out I forgot that he had sort of a cameo appearance in Black Klansman that me and Sean discussed before.
Oh,
I read that and I can't remember. His character name I didn't recognize. Who was he in that?
In the movie, the way I have vague memories from the movie itself, but I think he's considered in the movie an older patriarchal figure, like in the civil rights movement. And I want to say Washington, the actor Washington, or someone like kind of meets him because he's considered famous within the movie universe, and I think he gives him like some words of wisdom or something.
It's kind of like playing a version of himself in that way.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
That's cool. Yeah, I still need to get around to watching that movie.
I think it's. I think I said it on the Best Picture podcast.
Actually, it was the 1001 Movies podcast.
Oh, was it? Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, because I remember it was the last movie in the book.
Oh, I forgot that it was for that podcast. Rest in peace. And yeah, for my quasi racist statement of the week.
Oh no.
No, I said this, I guess, on the 1001 podcast about Black Klansmen, which is, I'm just saying, for my taste or not sensibilities, but I guess just my taste, Black Klansman is one of the few Spike Lee joints that I really like overall. So it is what it is.
You really don't have to say joints. You can say films or movies.
Yes.
Don't give in to his whatever that is. Don't. It's like when you called it X the other day and Josh re-X'd it. Don't say that. Stop it.
Say Twitter. Exactly.
It sounds horrible.
So yeah, that's my first hot take.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had a similar thing. I'd always known about his impact with cinema. I didn't know that he was a singer, so early on, when he had his little musical number bits, I was like, hey, wait a minute, is this guy, was he like an Elvis type who had a career before getting into movies?
So I guess I went the other way. I knew him more as a singer and didn't really know much about his movie roles.
Yeah, and this was the only thing that I'd seen him in until today, because just coincidentally, the movie that he made directly after this with his little production company that he put together, it's called Odds Against Tomorrow. They were playing that on TCM yesterday, so I recorded that and watched it this morning. It was made the same year, and he was really good in that as well, so I would recommend checking that out. A cool little crime film, kind of like The Killing. Had a lot of similarities to that. Also very strongly about racial issues.
Yeah, he left us earlier this year in March of 2023.
Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, damn.
No.
Oh no, it was April 25th of 2023.
Oh, okay.
But I was definitely impressed, and I feel like I want to check out some more of his work. I like what he was doing in this movie.
I agree. I really liked this character a lot. In fact, the whole movie kind of went downhill for me once Ben shows up, played by Mel Ferrer. And I think that's why the movie may be called The World, the Flesh, and the Devil, because Ben is the devil. I can't remember her name now. Inger Stevens. What's the character's name?
Sarah Crandall.
Sarah, that's right.
With 2 L's.
Crandall with 2 L's. Yeah.
I like that little bit.
Sarah Crandall. Yeah, she's the flesh. And what's his name?
Ralph.
Ralph. Well, yeah, Ralph.
Yeah, Ralph Burton. What a name.
Burton. Yeah. By the way, I totally thought his name was Pete Bear, because that's the name on his lunchbox. So I was literally going through most of this movie thinking his name was Pete Bear.
Oh, that's interesting. Maybe he stole it. Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong with me.
Maybe he was just down there.
I thought, oh, well, that's not his name. It must be the brand of lunchbox it is. But I Googled it and couldn't find him. Anyway, I do not like that character. I don't think we're supposed to like it, but I think the movie did kind of jump the shark with the gunfight scene.
Yeah.
I just couldn't see that happening. I wasn't buying it. It's like the movie went to 0 to 60 in breakneck speed. It was very Ryan Murphy, if that makes sense. Like, oh, and then all of a sudden this happens. It's like something I would play out when I would play G.I. Joe or He-Man as a kid. And then they got in a gunfight, and then everybody died. Yay! But yeah, I that felt out of character. But there were things about Ralph that I like. His obsession with collecting books and art.
Yeah,
he was probably going to like the MoMA, which probably didn't exist then, and getting his works of art there and just hanging them up in his living room.
Yeah, I really like that. Part of the reason I really enjoy this Last Man fantasy is just the idea of, you could have all these priceless pieces of art. You can just collect them and drive any car you want. Any day you could just go to a dealership and just take a car out. There's something so cool about that concept.
You'd get lonely, though.
Yeah, you get lonely.
I would definitely get lonely real quick.
Or it would like turn into like The Stand or something. It would be one group versus another group. Actually, I did watch a movie. I can hear your eyes rolling. I watched a movie the other day called Lockdown the Tower, about these people that live in like a project in Paris. I'm assuming it's Paris. It's a French movie. And then one day, all of a sudden, What's that episode of Doctor Who, Smith and Jones, where the hospital just ends up on the moon?
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like that, but it just their entire apartment building is like transferred into this black void, and anything that goes outside dies. And this movie spans like 7 or 8 years of these people living in this apartment building. Absolutely fascinating. And if you think about it, you can figure out what they ate and drank during that time, and your mind doesn't want to go there almost.
Oh, no.
So, yeah.
No, that sounds cool.
Roll your eyes as I tell you about a childhood dream that reminds me of.
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
Or it wasn't a dream, it was more like a daydream. But when I was a little kid, I used to like fantasize how it would be like if, say your house was covered in lava and it cooled and became hard, and so your house was like encased, and if somehow you could survive with air and all that kind of stuff. I always wonder what that would be like to just live in that state for an extended period of time. But you reminded me, I used to think about that a lot when I was a kid. But the thing about kind of sort of holding on and preserving old antiquities, it's not the same situation as this, but I always like the way they did that and referenced that in the movie Children of Men. That bureaucrat or whoever he was living in the old power station in London, and with the statue of David with like the titanium limb or whatever, and other artifacts around the house or station. I always thought that was really cool.
Awesome movie. Yeah.
Yes, it often overlooked these days.
So what I do really like about this movie is the awesome cityscapes, which are unique. I should say they're authentic. They didn't film this in no soundstage, I think, and they would get up early in the morning and go out and film, just like that's what they did with 28 Days Later.
Right.
Yeah.
Most of these are real. I think I'm looking at one right now where she's crossing the street, and it does look kind of like
I think, there's definitely some shots that were shot on location in New York City. There's some that were shot on location in a different city in a different state. I can't remember which one. And I think there might be a few that are on a back lot also somewhere.
And there are a few scenes. There's this really extraordinary long sequence where Ralph, he comes out from underground. He finds out he's the only person there. He gets a creepy mannequin girlfriend, and I'm sorry, but what does that sexy saxophone music mean when he got her?
Hey-o.
Oh boy.
But of course I wouldn't do like he does. I'd probably just go to like Donald Trump's apartment and hang out there. No, not Donald Trump. I don't like gold things.
There you go. Graceland.
Woody Allen's apartment.
These opening scenes when he's by himself, and especially when he's talking to himself or talking to inanimate objects, obviously there's a lot of other media that's come later that's very similar in feeling, like even like the first episode of The Walking Dead or something.
Absolutely, yes. I was going to say, and 28 Days Later, yes, absolutely.
But because of the interactions with the inanimate objects, the things that were most heavily in my mind in the opening scenes and minutes were Castaway and a more recent.
Oh, okay.
What's his name? Why can I not think of celebrity names lately? Tom Hanks. Another more recent Tom Hanks film. I don't know if anybody saw it. It was one of those direct to Apple TV films.
Oh,
Finch.
Yeah. Didn't see it, but I know which one you mean.
He did a couple of them.
But Finch is very reminiscent of Castaway, but in a futuristic dystopian post-apocalyptic United States, kind of like the video game Fallout. And yeah, it's almost like Tom Hanks is reprising his former role, but in a different setting. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that male mannequin that he had, Snodgrass. Something about that thing just looked creepy.
Oh, definitely.
I was like, I'm glad that they change up the models these days.
Yeah, definitely Anton vibes.
Yeah. And I like the way they played that out with him eventually just getting sick of it, smiling at him and throwing it out the window. And then she, the one who's been stalking him, thinks that he committed suicide. I thought that was a good way to introduce them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And it slightly subverted my expectations. when she explained why she screamed and everything, because I thought the implication was she thought that he had murdered someone else, and so when she when she admitted to him no, it's because she thought that he was killing himself. I just didn't see that coming, and it just kind of like changed my frame of reference for the characters. Oh, and also the isolation and sort of talking to yourself kind of reminds me of some really good scenes from the movie Moon as well with Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, really good one. Yeah, and I like the way that she explained why she hadn't come to him, because I was kind of wondering, like, why is she just creeping around the corners? But yeah, I could see why she would think he looked like he had lost his mind at that point.
Absolutely. And I thought maybe she just feared him in general, which was like her apprehension. But one thing, I don't know if they explained it in the movie or not. I didn't catch it. How did she survive?
She said that she was in a decompression chamber with 2 other people.
Okay. And did she say what happened to them?
They died.
She said they died. Yeah.
Okay. I missed that.
They left the chamber too early, like 2 days into it or something like that.
Okay.
I want to talk about relationships in this movie, okay? I'm going to put aside the fact that Ben is just a fucking idiot, and I can see it bothers me that she likes him instead of Ralph.
No,
does she?
I don't think she does.
I don't know about that.
She kind of, she liked Ralph first, and then Ben came along and, sort of like, oh, okay.
I sense feelings, though, that she wanted to continue to like Ralph more, but because he made himself so unavailable, that's the only reason I feel like she had any attraction or draw. I mean, yes, initially they had a nice conversation initially, and that's part of what made Ralph pull back in the first place. But beyond that first conversation, I didn't get much magnetism out of those two.
No.
But what is so cool, it's like dude remembered her birthday. And there are no kids. And then all that stuff that he did, that was pretty cool.
I loved that. Yeah,
that was pretty fucking romantic. And when she says, well, maybe Ralph can sit down, with me. And he says no. It's like, dude, what do you mean no? What have you been doing this whole time? Are you an idiot? Do you not realize that she's going to look at that as, oh, he's flirting with me? Or is he clueless and he's gay? I'm not for real serious about that. And he just thinks he's doing something fun and nice. But he doesn't strike me as an idiot like that.
Yeah, that's what I really like about their unfortunate relationship is he's so stuck in the world that they were in before everything died. And so living in segregation, he wouldn't be able to just go and sit with a white woman in that club.
Precisely.
And so he just can't help himself. But
wow.
He's stuck in that.
I didn't even think about that.
Caleb is saying in a different way kind of what I was about to say. Because I was going to say one of the biggest roadblocks between Sarah and Ralph, even pre-Benson, is the fact that she seems much more open and fine with the whole race aspect, whereas it's definitely part of Ralph's character by design that he can't really get over that.
Maybe that might be right, but she does say that it came out of nowhere when she says, I'm free, I'm white, and I can't remember what else it was, but I'm like
21.
I'm 21. And I was like, what? Did she, I'm free and I'm white? Is she playing that? What's going on here? I thought I had misheard it.
That was almost a piece of buzzwords from the time, because that was just, something that people would throw around as like a racial weapon. And so for it to come out that way, it's signaling to the audience.
Again, I wasn't alive and conscious in 1959, but in my future brain, my future person brain, it makes sense to me because of the time period of the movie. Again, I don't know if that's really true or not, but it seems to me like that type of dialogue would make sense in 1959. I don't mean just in a movie, but I just mean like in the regular world of 1959. Because like when you said it now, Sean, it reminded me of like, now, I'm not saying Latinos speak and other ethnicities speak exactly like this, but I definitely have heard versions of, again, they wouldn't say it this awkwardly in real life, but like, why don't you like me, or why don't you think I'm prettier? Like, I'm light skinned.
Mm-hmm.
I hear things like that, not said as awkwardly as I just said it, but it like in an obviously implied kind of way. I've definitely heard that type of talk, mostly amongst minority groups. I don't usually hear that around Caucasians, but you know.
Yeah, and I figure I'll get into this now. I was going to save it for more when we talk about the ending. But so right from the outset, making a movie like this, they were kind of in a rough position because under the Hays Code, it was forbidden in films for them to allow actual on-screen interracial relationships between black and white characters. That was just out from the gate. And so the way that they went around it was that she'd be interested, but he was so captured in the time period they live in that he could never allow himself to ever be with her. And he even has the fears of like, oh, like maybe it's just us alone right now, but what about when civilization comes back? Like I'm once again going to be a second-class citizen and this wouldn't be allowed. So they did the best they could with the limitations that they were stuck with. But I do think it starts to play a little bit awkward, especially when Ben is introduced.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about the Hays Code. And even though this movie's 59, for some reason in my head, I keep thinking it was like in the mid to late 60s, even though it doesn't make sense. And another thing that Caleb reminded me of what he just said was, you know, if you haven't seen Harry Belafonte like in this role in this movie before, he comes across in historical context of movies, he comes across as like a character very similar to Sidney Poitier in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner or in The Heat of the Night. And when me and Sean covered those two movies on Best Picture podcast, and I was doing some research on aspects of those films, it definitely came up in my reading that, especially in the early days of having prominent roles for African-American actors and characters, it was sort of a trope of these older day films where if you're going to have like a lead black actor or character, I don't know what they call it in the trope. There's a name for it, but basically they're like a representation of the quote unquote best version of a black man.
Yeah.
Meaning like they're well spoken, polite.
They're a doctor.
Exactly. And so this character, even though yes, he was like a coal miner, everything about him, and especially his interest in art and like kind of the arts in general and knowledge, he comes across as one of those quote unquote safe black men. And I'm not saying this is a criticism, it's more an observation and of the times.
Yeah, it was I guess they use like they say black excellence now to describe a similar thing that they do with some movies. But yeah, it was kind of, there are black people at this time, literally are second-class citizens, a lot of black actors and filmmakers. Well, I guess not filmmakers, but people. I guess actually Harry Belafonte, technically a filmmaker since he co-produced this. Yeah, they would try to push that, hey, black people can be a good part of society. We can be upstanding citizens. So, yeah, you maybe get that over inflation and you like put them up on a pedestal kind of thing.
Yeah, and I guess another reason why I keep forgetting this movie is from the 50s is because of, I don't usually use this type of lingo, but like these types of historical progressive depictions, it definitely doesn't feel 1950s Hollywood. It definitely feels much more mid to late 60s Hollywood. And so that is, I guess, a plus for this movie is how early on it came. I mean, how many years preceding like the infamous interracial kiss, like in Star Trek, the original series, you know, this predates that by almost like 9 years or something. Right during the Eisenhower administration. So that is quite a bit fascinating to me.
Yeah, think about this. This was only 4 years after Rosa Parks had her moment on the bus. So they were still deep into the early days of the civil rights movement.
Yeah, absolutely. And there definitely was some boycotting type behavior and sentiment in the southern states at the time the movie came out. And I think according to the internet, there was a particular showing of the movie in Atlanta, Georgia in 59, where they had to stop the showing of the film because people in the audience were getting too racially charged with each other.
Oh, no. Unfortunate.
I wonder what that means. It could mean like where they're out and out fisticuffs.
I don't think anyone was severely injured or harmed, but there might have been some minor injuries.
Fisticuffs.
Yeah, we'll discuss some more of the impact of the Hays Code on the ending. But I think the way that Sarah, or I guess, what was the actress name? Ingrid?
Inger Stevens died just 11 years after this was made.
Oh.
1970.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's real short. I wonder what happened there. Did you see the cause of death, or?
No, I did not.
I'll let you know if I find it right now.
Yeah, we got to get Mr.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
He's like, it's like, he's on one of those, he's the presenter in one of those English TV shows. It says here that it's English for so-and-so. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, but I think the two of them have a really good sense of chemistry. And besides that Free White in 21 bit, I think most of what they do with the racial component between them isn't too in your face. I think that they play it pretty well in a reasonable sense. And I liked her asking him if she could move into his building, but he said no because people would talk.
Yeah, way to get around that issue, sir.
Yeah, and it's sad because you could really see that he wants to be with her, but he's just so ingrained into him that it holds him back.
That's fascinating, huh?
Okay, on her death. So, I guess, let's see. I'm sorry, I had to go over it again. There's multiple details.
Man, okay, I know the TV show is thinking of Countdown.
So I guess on April 30th, 1970, when she woke up, her friend or whoever was there, her companion Lola, said that she kind of woke up, opened her eyes, kind of said something.
It's a lot of details.
Like she tried to speak but couldn't. And then she passed out. Apparently she was perfectly fine the previous night. The person, an ambulance came and then she died on the way to the hospital. They noticed.
I was just asking for a cause of death. This is a whole breakdown of their report.
I thought it was interesting. I just thought it was interesting. Medics noticed she had a small bandage on her chin that had
gangrene,
fresh blood coming from it from a cut that had happened hours earlier.
This is turning into a Mr. Ballin video.
They determined cause of death was acute barbiturate poisoning, and later they deemed it a suicide.
Well.
Oh, okay. Well, that was really depressing there, Eric. I'm like, okay, then what happened? Well, okay. I mean, I knew she's gonna die, but suicide, kind of heavy there, Eric.
Yeah, a little bit.
And she did star in some episodes also of Bonanza, Alfred Hitchcock Hour, and The Twilight Zone.
Maybe it was that one Sean mentioned earlier.
Oh, she could have been famous.
She was the other woman in that other one. Typecast.
Oh, great. Now I'm going to have to find out if that's true.
Oh, no, let's...
No, don't do your little research.
No, continue.
Talk amongst yourselves. Continue.
Oh, another bit I want to... Yeah, you already mentioned that we get some really cool on-location filming in New York. And I was curious, the shots on the bridge with all the cars piled up.
Oh, yes.
Did that look like it was on location, or I couldn't tell if there was a matte painting?
I don't know. I mean, that couldn't... that's just weird. I have no idea. We're going to have to listen to the Blu-ray commentary for that, because I wondered the same thing. Was it maybe filmed in a junkyard? How did they get all those cars on the highway, and then they had to have people just get out of their cars? Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, it looked pretty good though. It's pretty convincing if it was.
Great 50s CGI.
Yeah, that's almost what I thought. Oh, maybe it's CGI. No, it's 1959. You idiot! What are you talking about, CGI? But yeah.
I'd have to see the scene again because I wasn't fully paying attention, so I have no idea. I wish I did. Oh, and she starred in one of the more famous episodes of Twilight Zone from season 1, the original Hitchhiker episode.
Oh, okay. I think I know what that is.
I don't remember this at all.
You don't know the Hitchhiker episode? They redid it for one of the films, or the film in the 80s.
Yeah, I think there was just the one film. Yeah.
Thanks for the ride, lady.
No, that was Creepshow.
That was Creepshow?
Yeah, that was Creepshow 2.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, Creepshow 2. I've never seen that. Maybe yeah.
You're correct.
Oh, that's, you know what? That's the movie that made me realize I'm gay. I'm just going to say, and you just need to watch it, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it. That sounds...
I have seen it, but that was definitely one that reinforced that I was straight, so...
There is also a Creepshow 3, but we don't speak of that. That didn't involve Stephen King or George Romero or anything. Although Steve has watched it.
Oh.
You can get...
So at least there's some Steve involved.
Yeah. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I also like... I recently watched a kind of end of the world movie. It was during October, called Night of the Comet.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of that takes place around a radio station. So it was nice to see this one too, and I liked his constantly reaching out to try to find civilization. But then when he finally does, it also kind of clicks in like, oh, like now I especially can never be with Sarah, and yeah, if civilization does come back, then I'm going to be in that same place that I was before.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
And I think that's part of his resentment towards Sarah too. Maybe it's, oh, if the world hadn't ended, she would never look at me the way that she does now. It's only because I'm the last option that she would.
And I get that kind of argument. I totally understand it. And there's definitely truth in that. But at the same time, you could apply that to numerous relationships that involve star-crossed lovers. That, yeah, if this and this didn't happen, then, this wouldn't. So, I mean, on the one hand, it makes sense. But on the other hand, that's how love often works. That situations just arise that are unexpected, that bring two people together.
Yeah, but interracial.
So his argument is, I understand, but
I mean, it was illegal in like 30 states around this time. You get lynched for that this time.
No, I totally understand. But I'm saying, if in the context of in universe, if there was ever a time to get a free pass and to, again, it'd be different if her character was like a racist or had racist, internal feelings. That'd be totally different. But if it's just the two of you and there's no society to judge you or have thoughts one way or the other, and if you're both like upstanding people and are on the same page, then I don't see a reason to get lost in that moral query. But then again,
well,
this is coming from a guy who has a super pragmatic brain. So
yeah, this isn't moral. This is, I mean, how old is he in this? Do you think like late 30s, maybe close to 40? His whole life, it's been drilled into him. This is not acceptable to you. You're a second-class citizen. So it's hard, even though the whole rest of the world's gone, to not still be held by those pre-programming.
No. I understand that too. I understand that too. Yes, I totally understand that too. For the character's backstory. But
I do feel like they were forced to cop out in the end because it never comes to a conclusion. And again, they weren't allowed to come to a conclusion. Even the ending that they have wasn't what they were originally going to have, and it was pushed onto them from the studio, and all three of the actors were really pissed off that they feel like they had the movie stolen from them with the weird ending that they give it.
I read that, but do you know what the ending was supposed to be? Because that I did not find.
That I couldn't find either. I kept trying to track down what the original ending was going to be, but what we do get is it's like a non-ending. There's no resolution seemingly at all. Mm-hmm. Like, who knows? Maybe like 2 days after this, they could be back in another shooting fight. Like, it's...
Yeah. And because we're talking about the ending, which they call the beginning, which I thought that was cute, but
oh no,
since we're talking about that right now, yeah, overall, I liked most of this movie, even the caricaturistic Benson character. Even despite him, I overall liked the movie.
Yeah.
And I was even okay with the shootout to a degree.
Wait.
But then just the
Benson.
way...
Okay.
Yes, but just the way it actually ended, the walk into the sunset scene, that was the only terrible thing about the movie. for me.
Yeah.
Every time you say Benson, I think of dun 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 dun. Dun. No. Okay. Go ahead, Caleb. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the ending definitely, I feel like it damages the movie a bit.
I hate it. It's so unsatisfying in every possible way.
Yeah, and me and Eric for a long time have been going back and forth about the impact of the Hays Code and the merits of it. I feel like this movie is definitely a clear example of a victim of the Hays Code. The subject matter was bold for them to even attempt it in that time period, and I think they did mostly pretty good with it, but that ending, you could just feel the society at the time enforcing this complete bullshit ending that makes no sense.
I see what you're saying about the argument on the Hays Code. I totally, as it pertains to this movie. And even though I know the Hays Code was in full effect at this time, and it was definitely a big deal if you're a studio or studio exec, totally get that too. But I also don't want to just excuse, and again, I don't know these people and I don't know their lives in 1959, but I don't want to fully excuse what my future self views as like spineless executives. And I get it though, in the historical context, I get it. And just like executives nowadays make horrible decisions because they're trying to protect their own jobs, I totally understand that too. But I still think there could have been a better compromise than this weak sauce to appease the Hays Code or just social mores at the time.
Yeah, I always feel like you're there to defend the Hays Code in some strange way, but no, this is very clearly a victim.
No. There are, and even when I am speaking like the Hays Code is a good thing, I'm not actually defending it. I'm just saying what unexpected good came from it. Even though I don't necessarily agree with it in the first place, but this is not one of those times. I'm just talking about this movie, and I still think it's weak sauce for the higher ups to force that. Or I get if they couldn't have whatever the original ending was, but I still feel that there could have been a better compromise than what we got.
Well, certainly agree there. But in terms of the character of Ralph and Sarah, for them, they could never have had a happy ending. It would have, again, not been allowed under the Hays Code's code of morals. So would have never had anything satisfying necessarily resolved there by a modern perspective. Maybe the satisfying perspective then would have been for her to end up with Ben.
See, I would have liked some read between the lines implication that there was a future for Ralph and Sarah.
I agree with this. Yes. I think that Ben needs to be out of the picture.
Yeah.
But I mean, Ben, you've got a story where the black man kills the white man and takes the white lady, and they walk off into the sunset.
Would not have been allowed.
That's not
right.
Yeah. Oh, even if you try to imply it.
Yeah.
Right. But even if we don't imply that Ralph and Sarah end up happily ever after, even if we don't go that direction, I would almost accept some contortion of the situation or plot to where we have like a tragic ending where Benson ends up with Sarah for some reason. I would even prefer that over the milquetoast ending that we actually do get.
Really quick question. When did the Hays Code end?
68.
68.
Yeah, but it started to lose its power over Hollywood for around like 64 is when they really started to lose their stranglehold on entertainment.
68 was the last year we covered in the Best Picture podcast. Well, no, actually it was 2005. And then 68 was before that.
We did 2005, and before that we did 67, and before that we did 68.
Oh, okay. My bad. Well, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner was 67 or 68? That was 67.
67. That and In the Heat of the Night. And thank you for bringing that up again. Because going back to the Best Picture podcast, I didn't too much care for the way Guess Who's Coming to Dinner handled its issues. Not that it did it in a bad way or anything. That's not what I mean. And I'm fine with what the movie was going for in terms of social commentary for the times. I'm fine with that. The part I didn't really like about that movie is that I felt like it was playing extremely safe with what it was trying to do, whereas I felt like In the Heat of the Night was a much better, deeper drama, taking things a little bit more head on. But anyway, but I could not help but compare Guess Who's Coming to Dinner in particular to this movie. And except for that ending that we just talked about that I didn't care for, in terms of what was going on with the progressive ideas of interracial relationships in this movie versus Dinner, besides the ending of this, I was much more interested in this movie as it pertained to that dynamic.
Yeah, I think they handle it really well up until the end. I think that they give a good complex element of it, because you can always feel her too, like poking at him, like, why can't you just get past this and just be with me? We clearly both want to be together. You're just, you can't get past these issues. And then I also kind of like the way they handle the gender roles, for these two men are kind of just pushing her around. And even Ralph's kind of an asshole. He's basically, like, when he shows up, he leaves them alone for a while to try to give them time to foster their relationship. Just the way they treat her is kind of creepy too.
Yeah, but true.
You are correct. But I also think I understand Ralph's point of view with the way he thinks, the way he feels. Like, by the definition of how his character is constructed, his decisions very much make sense to me for that character's like inner thoughts and motives. Even though I agree with what you just said.
Yeah.
Because in his mind, not that he's trying to be noble, but in his mind, he's doing the right thing in, like, as he sees it, stepping out of the situation and completely letting them see for themselves, Benson and Sarah, if it goes somewhere or it doesn't. And I think it definitely makes sense in that character's logic, Ralph's character's logic.
Yeah. And creepy Ben, he's all for it. And yeah, he's a complete asshole. At one point he is telling her, like, I could so easily force myself on you if you're not gonna go willingly. Like, that, should I force myself? And I think he says the reason he doesn't do it because he's like, oh, she tells him, if you do it, then I'll definitely decide. And then he's like, well, I guess you decide for Ralph, so I guess this tactic won't work either.
Jeez.
He's
Such
a creep.
So the framing of the character of Benson,
Ben.
What
Dun, 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 dun.
Every time you say Benson, yeah, just sounds funny.
the way I react to his character and the way he comes off, it reminds me of, especially when younger people who aren't used to watching older movies, if they happen to watch something from the 40s or 50s with Humphrey Bogart or whoever famous actor of those times, and they often wonder, like, why do all these characters come off as, like, two-dimensional and, like, how can you say, like on the one, like, everything, all the motives of these characters in older movies, they're very on the surface. They wear them on their sleeve. There's no nuance or subtlety, but also at the same time, they're sort of PG depictions of how we're used to actors and characters expressing themselves in modern dramas. You know what I mean? It's basically a melodrama of the 40s and 50s.
Yeah. So
whether a character is good or bad or skeevy or calculating, it comes off in this weird, old-fashioned, cartoonish way. So Benson, even though he is such a deplorable character by design, because it's the 1950s or whatever, and it has a 1950s movie aesthetic, on the one hand, yeah, he is so vile and gross and disgusting. But on the other hand, if they remade this movie in the 1970s or later, he would not nearly be as polite and handsome as he appears in this movie.
Yeah, you'd have like a Jaws situation. He would be Quint, and Ralph would be Hooper, and she would be Brody.
What?
Yeah, and there'd be
I think Ben would be the shark.
No, you don't. You guys
You have
don't
to
see it.
read Sean's thruple slash fiction that he likes to do on the
Oh
side,
no, I'll stay
where
with
he
that.
reimagines a classic film or like classic Star Trek and kind of like
my erotic Jaws slash fiction.
Couldn't find anything less
It's
erotic.
called "What Happens on the Orca Stays on the Orca."
Definitely don't want that deleted scene.
AKA we need a bigger ship.
No, I got the bigger ship right here.
Listen to me and Sean on the Best Picture podcast.
Gentlemen, this is the war room, okay? Coming up on the release, the anniversary of the release of that film.
Well, speaking of the war room for a
Dr.
second,
Strangelove.
I did think it was interesting at first, and also before I did additional reading, because most of us here and people listening who watch older films know that there was a lot of nuclear war, atomic like theme movies, especially in the 1960s.
Yep.
And obviously, I haven't really seen too many from 1959. I think I saw one, like almost like a PSA type short film, like on Hulu or something, called Atomic Attack, which was from the early 50s, I think. But a mainstream movie, I haven't really seen into this. But then when I did more research on this film, I saw that I thought it was interesting that they initially wanted to produce this movie in 1945 or 1945. But because, as I didn't know, atomic theme movies were a big thing in the mid 40s as well.
Well, monsters.
That's why they didn't want to. Yeah, that's why they didn't want to. That's why they didn't go through with producing the film at the time, because they thought the market was already too saturated.
Yeah,
which is why they kind of sat on it.
When I rented this on Amazon, it said, if you like this, you'll like Them. Was one of the movies, the giant killer ant movie.
Very fun.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
Oh,
someday.
I haven't seen Them either, or maybe I did, or maybe I saw a remake. But anyway,
I just never understood why they're called Them. Why, Them sounds like a body snatchers type thing.
They liked those kind of snappy titles that they could throw a exclamation point on at the end back in that time.
Yeah. Like Anchors Away. Or, no, not Anchors Away. Oliver! Oliver!
Oh, no.
Sorry, Eric.
Also, recently Sean was diagnosed with Tourette's. I probably shouldn't violate the HIPAA Act by saying that on a podcast. But also another thing I think is curious or interesting about this movie is that you can kind of classify this as like a sci-fi dystopian film or post-apocalyptic film, I suppose. And because of the way it's made, the pacing and the cinematography, etc., it interestingly feels like an early 70s sci-fi movie in 1959 clothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because when I think of, typical 50s science fiction movies or B films, it's not this. This is not what I think of when it comes to sci-fi. Right. And anybody who knows anything about sci-fi of the very late 60s and early mid 70s, everyone knows that everything got dark and dour and post-apocalyptic, and we all know it was kind of kicked off by the original Planet of the Apes. And I definitely had that movie in my mind as I was watching this movie. Not because it's exactly the same, but just that concept. I guess the post-apocalyptic concept of what happens if humans practically destroy themselves and their civilization. But the point being, this is 59, and it's shot and presented in a way that feels much more serious in tone and nature compared to typical 50s sci-fi stuff.
Yeah,
I gotta interject here. I don't look at this as a post-apocalyptic. I know it is, but as a what would you call it? Post-nuclear war drama. I think they just use it as a reason for three people to be, quote, the last people on Earth. You know, it's just a plot device. I can't, first of all, because I'm a little stoned, but I can't not let this go. And that is, if you want to see real post-apocalyptic shit, I mean, like stuff that's going to stay with you for a week.
Oh no. That
you're going to have a weekend at grandma's house. Caleb knows what I'm going to say. And that's the made-for-TV movie Threads. You thought I was going to say The Day After. No, it's
Threads. Worse, much worse.
Fuck. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that thing hurts.
Man.
That thing hurts.
Yeah, it's one of the I saw it like 3 years ago for the first time, and it was like one of the first movies that terrified me.
Yeah.
Or one of the most recent movies in recent history that terrified me. That movie, Jesus Christ.
No, Sean, you're definitely right. I mean, it isn't like a true post-apocalyptic film as we know them. I agree. But the reason I still think of it, besides the fact that I think both these types of genres fall under the same umbrella, but also because in those more traditional post-apocalyptic films, the characters still have to deal with these types of situations and dynamics amongst themselves. And that's where I see the connection more than the actual happenstance. And you're right, it is very much constructed as a device to just get three people basically like being, on a deserted island. Because especially when there started to be conflict, which was obviously was going to happen between Ralph and Benson, etc. But when the conflict played out on screen in this movie, definitely reminded me of one of my favorite films, and I like both versions, but probably more the original. The Lord of the Flies definitely came to my mind.
Oh, yes. I love that story growing up.
And that whole idiocy, and there's a scene in Interstellar that makes me think of this too, but the whole idiocy of, humankind has a sliver of hope of continuing on. There's so few of us left. How and why does it have to boil down to two men having an argument? And I referenced the scene when Matthew McConaughey and surprise actor I won't name, if you haven't seen Interstellar, duel it out. And I said when me and Sean did that movie, it's just crazy that mankind hangs in the balance and these two idiots are fighting on a glacier.
Oh, yeah. That's every zombie movie by George Romero.
Yep.
Everything's, and then they did it again with The Walking Dead. Everything's hunky dory. They killed the zombies. They're surviving on their own, but somebody has a fucking fight about Tupperware or something, and shots get fired, and everything's fucked up. And this movie didn't have the courage to do that because of the era that it came up in. But yeah. The more this movie went on, the less I liked it. And I'm not saying that because in the final stages of the movie, I hated it. I didn't really care for that last act with Benson. But I just liked Ralph so much. I felt like he could carry the movie on its own. And I remember when, I looked at the post. I'm like, Harry Belafonte, doesn't he sing? Isn't he a jazz musician? Calypso musician, actually. And I'm like, oh, I bet you he did the soundtrack for Dr. No, but that wasn't the case. He really carried this movie so well in the first chapter or two. Yeah. And then she was so good with him, and they were both really good characters. And then enter the fucking, hey, let's put a villain in here at the last minute. We need some conflict. I'm like, no, this movie's really good without conflict.
Yes.
I know that doesn't make a good movie, but it's doing really well here. I'm paying attention. And then I just felt like I just was watching a different movie. Like I said, I felt like it was like watching Ryan Murphy take over the script and we're going to do some zany things right now. 'Cause that's what he does in a lot of his TV shows. So, yeah.
I feel like they pulled the teeth out of it by making him just kind of a misogynist rather than a racist. because there's so much racial tension in here.
Mm.
But they have him be like, "Oh, I got nothing against Negroes. I just want to sort out my thing with this woman." And it's like, I feel like if you're going to introduce this character, he should play a part in the racial discussion that they're having, not just be kind of outside of it in a weird way.
Because everybody's thinking of it, nobody's saying anything. Also, everybody's thinking, "Hey, what happened to all the bodies?" But whatever.
Yeah,
Some extra food.
But the thing is that they should have cast Slim Pickens to play Benson Thacker.
There you go. By the way, I like the name of his boat, the Little Tramp. I was like, okay, that kind of fits him. Little Tramp.
Oh man, when they saw the boat and they're both running towards it, I was thinking, don't, it might be cannibals or something. And because I'm so used to The Walking Dead, there's every time they encounter like a new camp or a town, they've got some other issue that they're villains. Every villain town has a different issue and a different dictator. But yeah.
Oh, but I do like some of the time capsule elements, like all the 50s cars and the little bits of location shooting in New York. It's cool to see it in that time. And I also really enjoyed the little newsreel or news of the day reels that they watched with the riding beauties. And I thought, and the rocket taking off. I was like, oh, look at that. That's interesting.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I do like that stuff. It also made me think of how in recent times, for a long time we didn't see that type of stuff in modern media until, all the Rocket X launches seems like there's always another Rocket X launch. Like,
SpaceX.
Just kind of remind me how... sorry, what did I say? Rocket X?
Yeah.
When you say Rocket X, it makes me think it's like Elon Musk or something.
Well, I meant Elon Musk, but SpaceX is what I meant.
Yeah, SpaceX is a...
Yeah, but it just reminds me how that's come back into our global consciousness, or at least national consciousness, because I missed that from when I was a kid.
No, there are moments in this movie that I could do without. There's a scene... After I praise like the first part of this movie, there's a scene where Harry Belafonte comes across a radio and he listens to the recorded bits.
Oh, yeah.
Of the quote unquote end of the world. That went on a little too long. And it's like, let's see Harry Belafonte cry on camera. Just one tear down the cheek. Jesus Christ, please. I hate that kind of shit.
Very of the time. But the radio recording sounded like something out of a Romero movie. All the chaos, people talking over each other.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it is true. That is true.
The beginning of Diary of the Dead was like that.
Or Dawn.
Yes, that's right.
I know, Sean, you complain about... Sean, you complain about it, like it went too long or whatever. And maybe it's because I've seen too many classic Godzilla movies, or all of them. And especially in the earlier ones, like in the 60s, especially the early 60s, and the ones in the 50s, or I guess 60s. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But the point is, what they would often do in those movies, the Godzilla movies, is there'd be a lot of newscasters and news reports. And obviously it was for exposition dump to kind of like clue in the audience. Except I'd much rather it be done the way it was done in this movie, much more artfully, if you compare it to some... And I know I'm talking about Godzilla, but Godzilla, those early ones, are kind of more in the vein of what you'd expect from typical sci-fi, I suppose, in the 50s. So I like the way this is done. It feels a lot better and more interesting, even if not perfect.
Yeah. No, that's certainly fair. I guess there's one more note I wanted to point out. We mentioned that really fun little party scene. I like that when because he took off for a few days after, I think it was the haircut scene. And
that was a little bit nutty, the haircut scene, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, that
was a bit much.
But I like when he came back, he brought her this diamond, and it was wrapped up in a newspaper that he printed. And it was, I thought the joke that he put on that was fun, where it was announcing her birthday, and it's like, we're sorry to say this is the only news that we have. I thought that was pretty cute.
I didn't notice that.
No, that was pretty cool, because I guess this is how my dumb brain works. Because he's like, I got a message for you, and she's like, okay. So then he throws it up, and it's the diamond, obvious. And I thought, oh, I was expecting an actual message. I guess the diamond is the message. And then it reveals, oh no, there's something on the news page. And then she starts reading it. And I thought, how did he find like an old piece of news page that had like the perfect thing to say? And and then I saw the font and the printing, and because it looks like one of those hostage notes, or not ransom notes. I meant
that's. I don't know why it was like that.
I was just picturing him at the printing office, just grabbing different letters off different font racks.
Okay. I would just do it the old-fashioned Dick Van Dyke way and just cut my letters from other newspapers. It's a Columbo reference, ladies and gentlemen.
But I thought, that was cool once my brain caught up with what was happening in the movie. And for some reason, just talking about that and something Sean just said, it reminded me. Sean, remember when we were kids? I don't know if you remember this. I used to like when you used to go to a theme park or a carnival or something, and they would like take your picture and they'd either make like a fake baseball card with you, or they'd make like a fake newspaper page and be like, boy wins spelling bee, and it print out on a dot matrix printer. And you were like, I would be so impressed. Look at this. It's like a newspaper page and I'm on the front page.
Yeah, I had a quote unquote rich friend whose parents did that with him, but it was like Sports Illustrated or something similar. I'm like, you don't even fucking play baseball anymore, Ken. I don't know.
No. Take
this off the wood paneling in your billiard room.
Is this old TARDIS Tavern Ken who would write in all the time?
Yes, that's him. That's the same guy. Yep.
Yeah. See, these are the things that gave us jollies as children, Caleb.
No, you know what I legitimately did have, and I got my jollies out of this. And every time we would see one, I'd be like, "Mom, Dad, please, can we?" The Old West photos.
Oh,
yeah. You dress up.
And by the way, this is
shit.
Sean circa 2019. We're talking about. By the way.
No, this is more like Sean circa. Well, actually, no, you're right. Actually, I would love to do it again.
I knew it.
I really would. And actually I just didn't know it, but my graduating photo when I graduated school, I framed it and I put it in the living room, and then my stupid friend came over and he said, "It looks like King Henry VIII." And so I took it down.
Killed Eric with that one.
Are you okay there?
Call the ambulance.
I don't want to be responsible for anything. I can't look this, because he was right. It looked like King Henry VIII. And I mean, I didn't have like a chicken leg in my hand or anything, but I can't look at it anymore.
I hope one day in the future, on a future birthday or Christmas, Sean gets me like a custom made portrait that has me somehow doing the George Costanza pose.
The nude one?
Or his portrait inside. Yes, or he's stretched out. That would make my day.
Okay,
make my life.
I'll do that. I'll do that, and you do one of me posing like Uma Thurman on the Pulp Fiction poster.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you had that kind of.
I don't know. I just came up with that. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
It's gonna have to be something with Divine if I'm gonna do you.
Thought maybe the Sharon Stone pose from Basic Instinct.
I thought it was a little bit interesting, and I wish I read more about the original two novels that this story was based upon. But in terms of the movie itself, I thought it was interesting that there's a lot of biblical ideas and themes woven into the movie, especially, I mean, obviously the title, because I saw... there's a 1914 film that had this title, completely different story, but had the same title. It's a lost film now, but it was actually a British film and one of the very first color movies. It wasn't like Technicolor or anything. Like, it was the type of color movie where they basically paint the colors in and post. But anyway, and then there was another movie in the 40s that was just called The World in the Flesh. Again, it's a whole different theme, but all of these titles reference a particular line in the book of Isaiah in the Bible. And I guess the interpretation from that particular quote in the Bible the world, the flesh, and the devil. Each term, like the world, flesh, and devil, each one kind of represents like two forms of like human sin. I think the world, I can't remember now, I'm doing this from memory, like the world tied into like gluttony and worldly things, and the flesh,
right.
You know what that implies, but like seduction and envy. And
Hey, Eric, you talking about fucking? Is that what you're talking about, fucking?
the beast with two backs, sir. And then the devil, that's kind of obvious too. Those types of...
The beast with two backs.
It's Shakespeare. We make the beast with two backs. It's Shakespeare.
Shakespeare's the beast with two backs?
Let's not talk about the Bible and Shakespeare at the same time.
That's Shakespearean for...
One's good, one's...
for copulating, fornicating. It's the beast with two backs.
What was that Futurama movie? The Beast with a Thousand Backs? Is that it?
That's a
you
movie?
guys remember that? I don't know why I pulled that
I
out.
remember those movies, but I don't remember that one in particular. I don't know if I saw that one in particular. And then the devil, of course, is like the devious and scheming type of thoughts that humans can have.
Sorry, I just check my disc. My disc. The beast with a billion. Beast with a billion backs. Like, check my dick. Oh no.
Maybe I did see that or own it at some point. I mean, your dick, not the movie.
No.
No, but seriously, folks. And then if you remember the scene in the movie where Belafonte is, I think he's standing outside the
yeah, when Harry Belafonte throws down the gun, it's something to do with like taking up arms.
Exactly, and that's another Bible quote also from the book of Isaiah. And then I thought it was just a weird, I don't know if it's a coincidence or what, but the composer of the score for this film, I don't have his name in front of me, but he was the same composer who did the score for Ben-Hur. And apparently he reuses a lot of similar sounding themes in the Ben-Hur score in this movie. And I just thought it was interesting for that to be like a undergirding theme. And also just, I kind of like the scene early on when he goes into the church or cathedral, whatever you want to call it, before ringing the bells, and he's just having like a moment of reverence when he's just standing there before the altar inside the church. And I thought that was just another interesting silent character development for the Ralph character. And something about just all these references to just biblical themes in general, I kind of thought was just like a nice underpinning of the movie overall. And fun fact about that church scene, do you guys remember as he's entering and he's going to the steps and through the door, how there's like a weird, what do you call it? Quick cut montage sequence of different lions.
Yes.
Like before.
Yes.
And it's almost like a weird thing because you almost wonder like what's happening. Like, am I hallucinating, or is the director trying to make me feel like I'm hallucinating for a second? Because it almost looks like crude stop motion animation.
Yeah, they felt like weeping angels. Every time I blink, they change shape.
Yeah. And apparently that scene was a nod to what was considered a famous scene in the movie, the battleship ship Potemkin from like 1925, because there was a similarly cut scene with lions in that movie. And apparently Woody Allen does a parody of that sequence in Sleeper as well.
I read that too, and I can't think of what scene in Sleeper that is.
I can't place it in the movie Sleeper, but I'm glad it reminded me of the movie Sleeper because that also obviously has that same theme of someone waking up into a world that is completely changed.
Into a brand new world.
Mm-hmm.
Filled with boobs.
So I thought it was interesting just that Woody Allen, whether he was referencing Potemkin or if he was referencing this movie, I thought that that's interesting that it was interesting enough that Woody Allen had seen this at some point, or Potemkin.
I liked that. It seemed a little pretentious at first, but the second time I watched it, I liked it more. So, yeah.
Yeah, does that bring us around to the close for this discussion?
I think so. Also, I have to confess, I did not take notes. I no longer take a lot of podcast notes. But the main guy, what's his name? Hubert?
Ralph Burton.
No, the actor.
Oh, Harry Belafonte?
Harry Belafonte, yes, thank you. So, since we've started recording, I forget that his name is Harry Belafonte, and I kept thinking his name was Engelbert Humperdinck. I'm actually wasn't Engelbert Humperdinck, was that the musician that Steve Buscemi went to go see in Fargo with the sex worker? Remember that? Anybody?
If Isaac was here, he'd say that you're sauced and lost right now. That's a good thing.
I am not lost. I might be a little sauced, but Steve Buscemi's like, yeah, Engelbert Humperdinck. You can't get wrong with that. You know what I mean? And she's like, nobody.
Let's Derek.
Thank you for reminding me to watch Fargo after this, the series premiere. But anyway,
okay.
Any straggling thoughts before we move to the end?
No, I think we can move to the end.
Sure. Well, who's first in the lineup for the final summations?
I'll go ahead and go.
I'll go first. All right.
Good plan this.
Didn't like this the first time. I think talking with you guys about it has sort of brought it up for me, brought up my rating. I think there should be a little trimming here and there. There's some overgrown pubes in this movie, and like y'all, I didn't like the ending, but I never thought about the Hays Code, and I personally fucking love that. Like, if I could have a book or something that is like how movies outsmarted the Hays Code, like the lesbian subtext in Rebecca, which was probably in the book that it was based on. But I know that Hitchcock was fucking laughing behind his mouth or behind his hand at, all those studio people that couldn't pick up on the fact that these people were a couple or whatever.
Yeah, rope.
I love the whole history of that and what Hollywood did and what clever directors would do. So I find that fascinating how much that affected this movie.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little long in the tooth at moments too, but I mentioned that already. But yeah, I'm out of, what are we rating this out of? Like, does anybody decide? I don't remember how it's done.
Do we do ratings on ProgNeg? I can't remember.
Yes, we absolutely do. Certainly any podcast I host.
Sure.
How
about Falling Mannequins?
Okay, that's fine. I was going to say Hunky Diamonds.
Sean, you get to pick. They're both okay.
I'll go with the Falling Mannequins because I am very partial to Falling Mannequins.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
I had a clown doll when I was a kid, and we would throw it down the stairs just to see what it looked like. Very David Letterman before his day, because he would. I think he may have done that once or twice. Push Madigan's off of. Anyway, I'm gonna say, I think this one deserves a Criterion release. I think this is a really great film. What do you mean? Oh wow! What?
Well,
I mean,
from what you just said, like you didn't really like it at first, and
I know, but that doesn't mean that. I mean, Sallow has a Criterion release. That doesn't mean that I like it.
That's different.
I mean, you don't really like a movie like that.
It might be my favorite.
But this is another. But I like this movie. I just like it. No, but I've seen movies from this age, and for me personally, I think movies from the 50s are a little bit lacking. I have seen some exceptions. Eric and I, when we were doing the 1001 Movies podcast, we watched Bigger Than Life with James Mason. and I was like, "What the fuck haven't I heard of this before?" You know,
that was a good one. That was a good one.
Yeah, it was an excellent,
really good 1950s movie that feels very ahead of its time.
Yeah. And this one is too, and it's sad that it was dragged down by the Hays Code. So that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I also frequently feel like a lot of 50s movies feel kind of neutered and...
Wait, no, but yeah, what did you rate it, Sean? Did I miss that part?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5.
Extremely respectable.
Falling Mannequins.
Yeah, I think part of why a lot of 50s movies are lacking for me is it was the waning years of the Hays Code, and they knew that they were losing their power, so they were struggling as much as they could to kind of push what they wanted to push, because they knew that they weren't going to be able to do it for very much longer. So I feel like a lot of 50s movies kind of suffer from those issues.
They feel neutered in a way that you don't see like the old Alfred Hitchcock movies like Blackmail and Sabotage. Those movies don't feel neutered, but movies like this do feel neutered.
Yeah, I also would like to see a Criterion release of this with some behind-the-scenes stuff, because I would like to know more about maybe what they're going to do with the ending originally and the location shooting stuff. I'm curious about some of that, because location shooting in New York, and you couldn't see any fuck-ups. I mean, I kept looking in the background. I was like, where's that fuck-up? Where's the one window where you see someone peeking out watching the production?
You see it, actually. There is when they go into the theater for her birthday party, quote unquote, and he goes into like a door right off of the box office. As he goes through it, you can see a lady sitting there.
Oh, interesting. Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, if they did have a Criterion release this, isn't everybody dead? Isn't it too late?
That you could be right there. Yeah, that could be true.
So no one...
They would add old interviews that they did in the 80s or, whenever.
But I've always had a big interest in black cinema in general, and I always like watching the progression. And this one, even though it's quite hampered by the Hays Code and the different rules that they had to operate under, I still think they get in some really interesting conversations. And discovering Harry Belafonte, really never having seen any of his movies before, I want to see some more of his work, because I think he's really good in this.
He was the best in this. Yeah, I really liked him, and I was really impressed by him.
Yeah, and I would also give it a 3.5.
I thought he was some sort of Hispanic. I didn't know that he was black.
Oh.
Because I don't see color. No, that's not true.
Oh, no. Here we go.
Yeah.
I did read that criticism that some people, because I guess there was a lot of people who were anticipating this film who were, getting into the civil rights cause at the time, which was about 4 years old at the time the movie came out. And so a lot of people were excited for this film to see how it would turn out. And I heard that was one of the criticisms amongst that crowd, which was, even though, it's a black man, but they were saying that he was so light-skinned that you almost couldn't tell, like, the skin tone difference between he and Mel Ferrer.
Yeah, it's one of the ways that Hollywood would soften who they would select to star in these kind of vehicles. And not to mention, I'm sure Harry Belafonte didn't do it, but there were also a lot of black actors that were made to wear face makeup to lighten their skin as well.
Yeah.
To make it more palatable.
That still happens in Asia today. They really like white-skinned Asians. That's why when you see a lot of the K-pop stuff.
Of course. And wasn't that one of the
that
was one of the themes in Babylon, right? About the...
Yeah, they cover that there, which I appreciated.
Yeah. I definitely didn't know too much about that, or didn't think much about it from that era until I saw Babylon. But anyway, was that your final rating or final thoughts, Caleb?
Yeah, I would give it a 3.5. Yeah, I think definitely worth checking out if you like, if you want to see some more interesting 50s stuff, and especially in the semi-sci-fi realm. Yeah, this stands out among a lot of really mediocre stuff.
For sure. So, for me, in my rating, it definitely gets... The reason it gets a bit of a boost in my mind and enjoyment is, again, because it's 1959 when the movie was produced and released. And that's still really impressive to me, not just because of the themes, but just the presentation, just everything. I mean, it just feels more modern than 1959 as a film. I wanted to react to some of the things Sean said. because when he was talking about the Hays Code and how to subvert it, and some of these things Sean and Caleb have heard me say before, but yeah, actually, you reminded me of another film we did. We did a lot of interesting films in just a few entries on the 1001 movies to watch podcast, and I hope someday we return to that, because the ones we watched were really good. And there was another interesting one, Johnny Guitar, starring Sterling Hayden from 1954, which is a Western movie. And I always thought it's so funny that it's called Johnny Guitar, and you'd be led to believe that Sterling Hayden would be kind of like, the lead character, like Shane or something. But really, he is such the third side character in the movie. And it's so funny to me because it's a Western, and, he's the assumed leading man type role. And it's really about these incredibly interesting, dynamic, strong female characters in a 1954 Western. And it's not overt, and I'm not saying it's intentional, but you can definitely read some type of lesbian subtext in there. And I think that's why it's hailed in that community, especially because of the time it came out. But it's just so interesting. And then Caleb said he had an interest in certain themes in these types of movies. And I've already mentioned it to him before, but you gotta see Ali, Fear Eats the Soul.
Oh my, yes,
It's not necessarily a Black experience film, but the character is dark-skinned Moroccan in descent, but it deals exactly with this exact topic, and it is just so perfect. I think the way it deals
that is fantastic. Yes, I agree.
With interracial relations, and it's not just interracial though, but it's intercultural, which is really important to why the movie is so interesting.
I'm so proud of you. You mentioned the movie we talked about 3 years ago.
It's really good.
Have you ever seen this movie, Caleb?
No, I've been meaning to see it, but yeah, no, I haven't caught it yet.
I'm going to tell you the plot. Okay, so there's this lady. I'm so sorry, Eric. What country is it? English?
Germany. That's what makes it even more interesting.
Germany. There's this lady. She's middle-aged. She stops at a bar that's frequented by Moroccan people, and she meets this man, and she ends up having an affair with him. That's not really an affair. I mean, they're both single. But the racism, both subtle and not subtle, and this is coming, it means a lot to me coming from Mr. Eric, I don't like PC movies, like Barbie.
Oh, no.
It's a great movie.
I don't know what PC movies mean, but go on.
Barbie. And a very well made movie, and just bizarre. And it's almost like it makes me want to stand back and think, hey, why did I like that movie? Because it was just all people talking in rooms. This movie that we watched for today was people talking in rooms, and maybe some parks and stuff, but people talking. But that movie, Ali, Fear Eats the Soul, that's pretty good.
Honestly, Ali, Fear Eats the Soul is one of the best European dramas I've ever seen. It also, the movie comes off as almost like a European early 70s version of Harold and Maude, but
yes,
it has a lot of that.
Not comedic at all. No.
But it has a lot of that, but also putting in the race relation type aspect. And it seems to depict it so very well. It just feels super real. And I was going to say, I think it's one of my favorite international movies of all time is what I was going to say. And no one cares unless they've seen the movie, but you watch this movie and it seems so fantastic and well done. And then you find out that the whole entire movie was like shot like in 15 days or something and produced like in 3 months, and then your brain explodes.
I don't remember how it ended. I feel like it ended with something shocking, but maybe it didn't. I don't know. If
anyone cares about interracial relations, it has got to be on the top of the list of those types of movies. And then The only other thing I wanted to say that matters to my rating as well is I don't know what Sean's Amazon version was like that he watched, but the version that I got digital streaming on the service that I usually use for all my digital streaming, like first party, like legitimate service. Okay, fine, it's an SD. I can deal with that. That's fine. But what I cannot deal with, and Sean knows what I'm talking about, is the version I saw that I legally purchased was basically the DVD version, but non-anamorphic DVD version.
Oh, fuck that. Boo. That's the worst.
So I'm almost positive this was a digital stream of the non-anamorphic DVD version. And it was absolutely dreadful and horrible to look at.
Oh, no.
And it really bothered me because I really wanted to see this movie more clearly, especially because like what Caleb brought up about the details and just like the on location scenes and everything like that, which is, it doesn't necessarily feel like a Criterion level film to me, but I would strongly be in favor of Criterion or someone else putting it out and restoring it, because I would love to see this movie the way it's intended to be seen. And I might think more of it if I could see that type of version of the movie, because the version I watched was worse than knockoff copies of movies I see on YouTube. Like, this was worse than that, and that bothered me immensely. But I'm still giving it a comfortable 3. Perhaps if I saw a better version, I might give it a 3.5. But I'm sticking with 3 for now.
Yeah, the TCM version looked just great.
Oh, I'm jealous. Jealous.
And yeah, among my my rating, I also want to give a hearty recommend to people to go check out that Odds Against Tomorrow if they want to see some more fun Harry Belafonte stuff. It's directed by Robert Wise, so always nice to see one of his films, and stars Shelley Winters as well. And she is a ton of fun in that too, in her limited role, as she always is. Shelley Winters is just great.
You said Odds Against what?
Odds Against Tomorrow.
Okay. I always write these things down. I don't know if I'll ever refer back to my notes, but I always write this down. Yeah, and Sean's already heard this, but Sean, if you really do find the Hays Code intriguing, I've already said it, you got to watch Lolita. You got to watch the Kubrick Lolita. But yeah. Yeah, is that about it?
Good for me.
All right. I have no idea when we will reconvene for the next Prognosis Negative or what it could possibly be. But until then, this is Eric.
This is Sean.
And this is Caleb.
And until next time,
the balcony is yours.
Prognosis negative.
By the way, I'm doing what I would call inspired by you, a John Waters retrospective. So I've seen Female Trouble and Desperate Living. And I had a memory of not liking either one of them, and I thought it was because I was too young. And it turns out I was too young. And Eric, if you want me to describe certain movies, scenes from these movies, I'd be happy to.
Save it. Maybe we'll finally do it.
There's a scene where there's this... Yeah, this lesbian, she goes and she gets a sex reassignment.
Oh, no.
That's what they call it in the movie.
Crazy.
And then she comes home and she tries to fuck her girlfriend with her new dick. But her girlfriend's kind of like, ew. So then she gets mad and she takes scissors and she cuts her new dick off. Would you like to see that movie, Eric?
It's pretty horrific, but
I would love to see that. If it's anything like the cock scene in the other John Waters movie.
Yeah, I've been meaning to restart some more John Waters with you guys. Yeah, I've been itching to get to it.
Well, actually, with a hint.
Yeah, the movie suffers though because it doesn't have Divine in it.
Yes. Yeah, agreed.
Female Trouble, Divine is the star, and I really enjoyed that. I'm so sorry.
That thing's great. Absolutely.
I think it might be better than Pink Flamingos, but
Definitely one to discuss. Absolutely. I'd love to get into that. Some crazy stuff there.
all right. I'm sorry, everybody. Maybe we should talk about the cook, the thief, the flesh, the world, and the,
Okay.
Yeah, the thief and the cobbler and the devil, Scratchman.
and their lover.
I thought it was a little bit
Mr.
interesting.
Scratch.
What do you call it? Wow, are you guys okay?
Just keep going. Just keep going. All right.
The United Nations.
He just dropped some stuff on the floor.
I thought it was maybe one of. I thought it was maybe one of
Are you
Sean's
guys
cats.
okay?
I just fell over, but I'm okay.
Wow, are you guys okay?
I'm just bleeding out.
I
but-
fall and I can't get up.